Hello, and a big warm welcome to the Guardian Doula's Diary podcast. My name is Angela Deuce, or Angie. I'm your host and the founder of Guardian Doula. I'm a certified birth and postpartum doula and childbirth educator based on Sydney's Northern Beaches and serving women and their families all throughout Sydney. This podcast is an honest collection of the stories and experiences of birthing women and the professionals that support them to empower, equip, and inspire us all. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast. This episode I am literally filming sitting in my car because I was so inspired by two conversations that I've had today with clients. I've just been out and about seeing clients today, and I literally had this conversation with two of my mums today. And I just felt so fired up after the conversation and just so inspired to sit down and have a little heart-to-heart with you and almost like give you a pep talk. And I think I'm going to title this episode like to the pregnant or postpartum people pleaser, because I love alliteration. I feel like it makes everything sound so much better. But I do think that there is such an important message in this that we all as mums need to get our heads around. And even if you're not pregnant yet, like this totally applies. I think this is a human thing, you know, this is something that pretty much everyone will struggle with at some point in their life. And it's something that is so important to conquer, because people pleasing is just so dangerous and so unproductive. Like, it doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve you, and it also doesn't serve the people that you're trying to people please. So I wanted to just literally sit down after having had these conversations with my clients, and I'll tell you a little bit about each of the conversation. And then I'm going to just give you like a heart-to-heart and a little bit of, a pep talk around this, because I think that it is such an important topic. Now, the first conversation that I had was with a client who was telling me about how she was so nervous to hire a doula in case her healthcare providers felt like she didn't trust them, or like in case they were offended by that. And we kind of unpacked that whole situation and had a really great chat about it, and she's feeling so much better now. And like, I've literally helped her come up with an entire framework around how to approach that conversation so that she feels a little bit more confident going into it, which thank goodness she's feeling way better about it now. But that to me is so heartbreaking. Like I was saying to her, that is so sad that you feel that way. Like, I totally can understand it, because I am someone who has to work really, really hard as well on not people pleasing. And I always say to my friends and family, like, it's funny, I'm such a people pleaser sometimes when it comes to, like friends and family. But then for whatever reason, when it comes to advocating for my women in the birth space, I feel like that all goes out of the window, because I'm advocating for my client. You know, I'm advocating for this mum in front of me. And I think, having given birth 4 times myself, like, I just know how imperative it is that when you are giving birth, you feel empowered and you feel supported and you feel safe. And so because I just have such a solid conviction around that, and I'm so passionate about women being given really, really good support when they're giving birth and when they're pregnant and postpartum, it's like easier for me, I guess, to not people please in those moments and to advocate really, really well for my clients. But then when it comes to advocating for myself, sometimes I totally feel that sort of pressure or that temptation to just be a total people pleaser. And it's something that I've become a lot better at over the years. Oh, sorry if you can hear aeroplanes. I'm sitting, as I said, in my car. There's an airport quite near to where I am. Anyway, it's something that I've definitely improved on and grown in a lot. I think since having my own babies, honestly, is what has done it for me. And also just time. Like, I feel like as you go through life and you get a little bit older, you start to get clearer on what your values are and what your convictions are. We're going to talk about this as a key way to kind of crush that people pleaser inside of you and just become this really confident, strong version of yourself, right? But anyway, I digress. This conversation that I had, one of the ones today, was with this client who, was just feeling really nervous to tell her team that she had hired a doula. And I was saying to her, like, any good midwife or OB, like, I'm not going to say any midwife or OB, because that's not true, right? Like what I said to her was that any good midwife or OB would be so understanding and so supportive of you hiring a doula, because the evidence literally shows that doulas improve birth outcomes. And if this care provider doesn't have an agenda to try and like control every single decision that you make throughout your pregnancy, and they are all for you having autonomy and having really good support and being in the driver's seat of your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum experience, they should be stoked that you're hiring a doula, because like, what does a doula stand for? Doulas stand for advocacy, really informed decision making, really quality birth preparation, really quality birth education, all of those things any good care provider should be completely supportive of. And I am friends with so many beautiful midwives who all tell me about how much they love it when women have doulas, because of all of those things that I've just rattled off that doulas stand for and bring to the birth team. It's not to say that every single midwife or OB is going to be completely supportive of you having a doula, because not all of them want you to have you in the driver's seat. There are some providers out there, obviously not all of them, and I hope and pray that they are few and far in between, but I've definitely come across a few in my time, providers who don't want you to be in the driver's seat, and they would much rather have almost like, a sense of control over your pregnancy and over your birth. And a lot of that is because they just want to be able to kind of call the shots and do things that are convenient for them, whether that's like, oh, let's just book you in for an induction, and I'm going to kind of manipulate or twist a little bit the need for an induction. Like if I had $1 for every time I hear a care provider saying like, oh, you're past your due date now, or like you're 41 weeks, so let's book your induction, with literally no medical requirement or any evidence to back that suggestion up, I would be so wealthy. But that's another conversation. Anyway, this one client was just saying that she felt so nervous to tell her care providers that she had hired a doula, because she was so worried that they would take that as like, oh, she just doesn't trust us, and that they would be offended. And then the other client was saying that she felt really guilty for booking a doula postpartum, and for, paying me for that, because she felt that that was really selfish. And so we had a chat about how, like, actually putting these things in place is one of the most selfless things that you can be doing, because again, specifically for postpartum, like putting really solid supports in place postpartum is going to help you be a better mum to this baby, and to any other kids that you might have. That is not selfish. There is nothing selfish about putting the right things in place so that you can be a better mum. Like, that is actually a very wise, very sensible, very reasonable thing to do. And the research totally supports it. So we were able to kind of unpack that and be like, no, like that's quite frankly not true, that it's selfish, But both of those conversations just really inspired me to have this little pep talk. And so I want to just really quickly highlight like why this is so important to get comfortable advocating for yourself and to get comfortable with dropping the people pleasing, right? I think something so important to bring to your attention, and this was huge for me in my own journey, is that if you feel bad saying no, so you're always saying yes because you're like, oh, I just feel bad saying no, I feel bad saying no. The reality is that you actually can't run away from saying no, because if you're saying yes all the time to people, you are still saying no to someone. Like, your yes to person A is a no to person B, right? That person B might be yourself, but it might be another person. And a classic example of this, when you are postpartum, I'll give you an example postpartum, and I've just thought of one for pregnancy too. An example of this postpartum is everyone wants to hold your baby, right? And you say yes to that, but that yes could mean that you're saying no to your baby getting fed on time. Like, this is something that I would constantly fall in particular after I had my first baby. I would rock up to some kind of event and everyone wants to hold the baby, and I'd be like, oh, okay, sure, like have a cuddle. And then I would feel too bad or guilty to be like, anyway, I'm going to take him back now. Like, I need to feed him. And so he would end up getting fed late. And it's just like, that's ridiculous. I don't know why I felt like I couldn't just be like, okay, I'm taking my baby back now. Like, it's time for me to feed him, My inability to say, no, sorry, it's not the right time for him to have a cuddle with you. Like, I need to feed him. That inability for me to say no to those other people meant that I was saying no to him, So if you're scared to say no to people, I think I would sit down and be like, well, I am saying no to someone. Like, your yes to person A is a no to person B. And you've got to get that into your head, I think, when it comes to dropping the people pleasing. Like, you've got to realize that. And then I think in pregnancy, like, another example that I hear all the time from second or third time mums that hire me is that they'll come to me and be like, oh, I had this horrific experience, the first time because my provider really wanted to induce me for going past my due date. And I just felt too bad to say no, or I wasn't really sure, or I thought like, oh, maybe they know best. And so I said yes to that unwarranted induction. But me saying yes to that unwarranted induction was essentially me saying no to my water birth, because it's not a secret that, generally speaking, inductions, especially when they are unwarranted, lead to this cascade of other unwarranted intervention. And, so that can cost you your birth. And I've heard this time and time again. So I think getting really clear on the fact that saying yes to one thing is you often saying no to another thing. And that's really important to kind of wrap your head around that. The pressure to keep everyone else happy is sometimes, will come at a huge cost. So I think it's really important to just decide in your heart that people-pleasing needs to stop. And obviously it doesn't mean that you do not need to be a kind, caring person who does think about other people's needs. Like, I'm not saying that you need to be this entitled, awful person, but I am saying that if you are constantly doing things out of guilt or out of a fear of judgment, or, we think like, oh, what will they think if they set a boundary, or, maybe it just feels easier than explaining why you need to say no. Or even like family expectations. Oh, well, we all did it this way, so why would you need to do something different now? If you are doing things out of that guilt or that fear of judgment or that obligation, you're not doing that out of a loving place in your heart anyway. Like, that is not you being a loving, kind person. That's just you being really scared to say no. And I think it's just really important to nip that in the bud as early on as you can in your motherhood journey, because the reality is, when you become a mum, and always in life, but I honestly do feel that it becomes more apparent when you are a parent, there will always, always, always be someone or a group of people who disagree with you and who think that what you are doing is really unreasonable. And there are so many examples of this. Let's say you decide to have a home birth, there's always going to be people in the peanut gallery that go, oh my gosh, how could you put your baby at risk? Like, that is just so silly and so ridiculous. But it's like, they probably just aren't very well educated. Anyone who knows a good amount about birth and who understands home birth and is humble enough to actually do the research can see that home birth is statistically a lot safer for women, so there's that example. Or there's like, if you choose to breastfeed or to bottle feed, there will always be someone who goes, oh, why would you bottle feed? You should breastfeed. Or why would you breastfeed when you could just bottle feed? Or if you choose to sleep train or to not sleep train, or to homeschool your kids one day or send them to public school or to send them to a private school, like, there's always going to be someone out there who disagrees with you. And I think it is so crucial to just get really good at holding your own opinion and holding your own conviction really well, and being like, well, you don't have to agree with me, that's totally fine, but this is important to me and it's what I'm doing. And it's important because, like, mums, I want you to know that you are the best mum for this baby that you have been given, right? A lot of people probably just believe that it's like, I don't know, fluke or something. I've said before, I personally am a Christian, so my belief and my little 2 cents on this is that, like, I believe that there is a God who is in control, and he gives you a baby or a little child to care for and to raise up because he knows that you are the best parent for that child. That's my belief. And so you don't have to agree with that. That's totally fine. Lots of my clients laugh at me and they're like, oh, that's so cute that you think that. I totally disagree. And I'm like, that's totally fine. But that's my view as a Christian. Like, I genuinely think that you were chosen to be this baby's mom. And whether you agree with that or not, you could even argue it from the angle of like, your kid's the best, your baby's the best. So even if you don't believe that you were like divinely chosen to be this little person's parent, you still know them the best and you know what their needs are, right? And so if you know that your baby is going to thrive really well off of some sleep training, or maybe they need to be homeschooled or to not be homeschooled, whatever that is, you've got to get really sure of yourself and be like, I am the best mum for this child and I know what my child needs and I can trust those convictions that I have in my heart, and hold the line, hold the boundaries. Here is your permission. You don't need my permission, but in case you're finding it hard to say no and to set really healthy boundaries and to set really healthy limits, here is your permission. And I think it's important to know that people pleasing in birth and postpartum and in motherhood for the rest of your life, it really does have unfortunate consequences. Like let's say you have agreed to visitors way too soon after you've given birth and you're running around after them, like hosting them in your home. I have done this with our first in particular. I remember we said yes to a bunch of people coming over and I had literally just given birth. I still couldn't even sit on my stitches and I was like running around making toasties for everyone, taking orders. And I honestly look back at that now, being 4 babies in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? And like these people had no idea. I don't think any of them had babies. I can't even remember who the particular people were that came over, but I just remember myself running around the kitchen, like waiting on everyone hand and foot. And I was like, what am I doing? And I kind of knew at the time I needed to be like sitting down feeding my baby. He was probably even like due for a feed and crying, and I probably just felt too bad to be like, anyway, I'm gonna sit down and feed my baby now, hand him over, like you can go get your own tea. Anyway, whatever, it can have consequences. And so I remember getting to the end of that visit and my baby was super overstimulated and really overtired and really overhungry because I just felt too bad to say no. And I was really tired and my stitches were hurting. And so then like, it just meant that the rest of my day was awful, or even like overcommitting to social events instead of focusing on resting when you need to, or, whatever it might be. These things, when we are taking too many things on and we're saying yes to too much, it can have real consequences. And I think if you are listening to this and you're like, okay, I really don't want this to be me, these are my little tips on how to stop people pleasing, okay? Number 1, I reckon you've got to get clear on your values. You've got to sit down and think about what is truly important to you in your birth and postpartum. And once you've gotten clear on those values, whether it's like rest or, really learning your baby's cues and being like, I just want the time and space and capacity to really like hone in on what my baby is asking for and communicating. I want to learn my baby's cues. That might mean we can't have so many visitors around because it's just going to divert your focus, So getting clear on your values. And then once you get clear on what those values are and what is important to you, that will help you work out what you want to be saying yes to and therefore what you have to say no to as a result, because of what we mentioned before about how, when you say yes to one thing, you are then obviously saying no to another thing. Like if I'm saying yes to having you over for a visit, it means that I'm saying no to, cuddling my baby and having that time or whatever. So yes, getting clear on your values. And then once you've gotten clear on your values, really identifying like, okay, what do I need to be saying yes to and what do I need to be saying no to in order to really hold true to those values. Then I think the next step is to just practice. Literally, you might even need to role play, right? Like, before you go into an appointment where you just know that there's going to be an induction pushed on you, just to use that example again. Or maybe there's a family member who thinks that they're just going to come over and hold your baby 5 minutes after you've given birth. Like before you go into that conversation, you might have to literally role play, like stand in front of your mirror, girlfriend, and practice saying, oh, that's not going to work for me, or whatever it might be. And then I think too, another important step is to surround yourself with the right support. And this is why hiring a doula is such a non-negotiable, because as a doula, I help my clients set boundaries with family, with visitors, with care providers. I help them advocate for their birth preferences. I help them feel confident in their choices so that they don't have to second guess themselves and be like, oh, was this the right thing? So I think, surrounding yourself with the right support is another really big piece of this puzzle, because believe you me, when it comes down to it, you can feel a little bit clouded, especially at the end of pregnancy when there are pressures from care providers. I think is like when this really happens, and you might feel crystal clear now sitting here listening to this. Let's say you're 20 weeks pregnant and you're like, I would never allow myself to be pressured into an induction. But do you know what? You actually might surprise yourself. At the end of pregnancy, when it comes down to it, the amount of women that look at me in the eyes and go, oh my gosh, I actually can't believe how much I really did need you to help me advocate for myself. I never thought I would need you that much. Like, it's hectic at the end of pregnancy. There's a lot of pressure. I think the right support is a big piece of this puzzle. But I challenge you, if you are listening to this and you're serious about setting boundaries, just decide in your heart right now that you're going to do it, and back yourself. Know that you are allowed to call the shots. This is your pregnancy, this is your birth, this is your postpartum, and this is your baby. And you have not only a right, but a duty of care to your baby, to put those boundaries in place and to make decisions that are going to be conducive to your and your baby's well-being. So go you've got this. I hope this pep talk was helpful. Thanks for joining us for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a rating or a comment, and I can't wait to see you back here for the next one.